Okay, welcome everybody. Um, Anybody new? My name is John Hall, and we are now going to be presenting to you appliances. This is one of my favorites. I really enjoy. One of the things that I do with the clients I work with is never in my career have I ever said go find stuff and come back to me. I always enjoy going with my clients. It's very hand-holding, and people really appreciate me going there with them and doing the selecting because it can be overwhelming. And if you really truly understand what your options are and things like that, and a lot of it's price driven too. We can go and spend $10,000 on an appliance package or 50,000, and what's the difference? And so I guide them through that. One of the things, I don't know if I said the story, and if I have in the past, you guys have heard it, bear with me, but it's probably my all-time favorite story, is I was doing a job down in North Canton about 2 or 3 years ago. And he saw me at the show, and it was actually a referral from somebody in Alliance. And so what happened was, I spent a time with the husband, and I went down and met the wife, and they were an elderly couple, and they really wanted some guidance. But the wife had never met me yet, and so when I went in the first day, I said to him, I said, "Oh, she had her stack of magazines there," and I said, "Oh, I don't want to talk kitchens today." I said, "Let's get in the car and let's go shopping for an automobile." She looked at me like I was crazy, and she was looking at her husband, "Well, who have you brought into this house?" And I said, "No, bear with me." I said, "Where should we go? Do you want me to take you to the Toyota dealership? Do you want me to take you to the BMW dealership? Where do you want to go buy the car?" This is going to come into play so many times. When you're doing your kitchen, you're going to have about 30 to 40, at least $1,000 decisions. And a lot of those are going to be appliance driven. So you just have to set, if somebody comes to me and says, "You know what, John, I have an unlimited budget. Don't worry about money. I'm going to give you about a half a minute of attention because everybody has a budget." I will get once every 10 years, I'll get somebody without a budget, truly without a budget. I would say once every 10 years. So you guys all have budgets out there. I respect your budgets. So let's get started. What we're going to cover in this webinar, we're going to discuss the different brands and price structuring. We're going to understand refrigeration and options. We're going to understand dishwashers, cooking, microwaves, miscellaneous appliances, and we're going to answer questions. I want to get a feel out there because I'm having trouble with something right now. And please, if you guys know how to respond, I'd like to get some answers. There's a lot of places in Cleveland to buy appliances. What is more important to you guys? To have a state-of-the-art showroom and be able to go in and look in a clean, pristine showroom and sacrifice a little bit of customer service, okay, and guidance and knowledge, but be able to have a great showroom to go into to see? Or would you prefer to have a showroom that is not state of the art, but the people will treat you as their kids and guide you through the whole process in more of a boutique and deliver on the day you want it delivered? And if there's something wrong, you can just call them and things like that. Which would you guys prefer? And just give me that answer out there. I know my answer, but it's something where I have that opportunity with my clients to take them to both spots. Okay, I personally would rather sacrifice the showroom and have a company in my back pocket always to pull something out of a hat for me when I need it. Let me give you a good example, and then we're going to get into this because this is important. I had a lady, okay, in Pepper Pike, a young lady. Kitchen went like a dream, and we're unpacking the appliances. I told her she was going for the day with the kids on a field trip or something, and I said, "When you come back, you're cooking." and she was especially excited about a speed oven we're going to talk about. So what happened was she goes in and she leaves, and Jim Huntington, my contractor, calls me and said, John, guess what? The speed oven's damaged. I said, you're kidding. I told the lady she's coming home and cooking. She says, I know. I said, okay, something to deal with. So I called Bloom Brothers. Okay. He said, John, don't worry. I will get one out there. The truck hasn't left yet. You'll get one out. I said, oh my God, great. That's going to really help my client. She won't even know this happened. So the second one comes out. I get a call from Jim Huntington. Guess what happened? John, this one's damaged too. I said, you're kidding. So I called Bloom back, and I talked to the owner, Bloom, and he personally went and unpacked one and brought it out. And by 3 o'clock, that lady was bam cooking. That's what I like to go the other direction. So most people are responding to me right now that they would like more of that guidance and things like that. So let me give you the places that I like to shop. Okay, and if they're not on the list, that doesn't mean that they're not the greatest, but these are the places that I would shop. Okay, and you notice I have not promoted much throughout these webinars, but I'm strong about this. Okay, Bloom Brothers, they're in Chesterland. Jim, incredible company to work with. I worked with them for years and years, and I've always had great success. And the only negative to them, they don't sell Sub-Zero and Wolf. Then we have Interstate Kitchens. John Fauser. You want as much personal touch as you will ever get, and you ever want to deal with a truer gentleman in your lifetime, you go and buy your appliances from John Fauser at Interstate Kitchens. Then there's also, if you want to go look at stuff, there's a place called Trevaro, and they have all the Sub-Zero Wolf. They have a big, beautiful showroom where you can go in and look. They don't sell, but you can go and see the product, which is really nice. And then I also like a place called Ferguson's. They're the ones with the pristine showroom, and nothing against Ferguson's, but they're absolutely terrific there. But they're more of a ivory tower type of situation where when I order appliances and I want them delivered, they'll get back to me, and I have to wait a week to week and a half. Where if it's Interstate or Bloom, I can have it within a day. So that's very important there. Let me just say this: those are the only. You can read between the lines, but those are the only 3 places in Cleveland I would buy appliances. Okay, so let's get started. That gives you guys some good info as far as when you start going and talking to people. Here are the major brands. Okay, now with this slide, I put cars next to them to give you an idea. Bosch is a Toyota Camry. These are price-wise when I put the car next to it. I tend to have Bosch written on my forehead. I am a Bosch guy. I think for the dollar, I think Bosch is probably the best appliance for the dollar that's out there. Then we have Fisher Paykel, which is a New Zealand company. That's a Lexus. They started with the dishwasher drawers, and then they've gotten into cooktops, and they're a good company. If anybody ever said, I'd want to go the Fisher Paykel route. The one thing you have to do when you're doing these appliances, anybody want to guess what's the most important thing you should be asking? Service. You want to know about the service of these things. Somebody who out there services some of these off brands. KitchenAid, we all know KitchenAid. That's a Chevy, Apple Pie America, Genair, Ford, Uline. Anybody want to go with under-counter beverage centers or ice makers or things like that? General Electric, Profile, GE Profile. Now, people that are interested in GE, great company, they have different series. They have GE Profile, they have GE Monogram, and they have GE Cafe series. All of those things are at different quality levels. Sub-Zero. That's, if anybody knows that name, that is the Mercedes of refrigeration. That is the you'll see a lot of examples of that coming up. Thermador, terrific product. American made, Cadillac Sub-Zero, American made. GE Monogram, there's the more of the Lexus. That's the upper scale GE. Scotsman, people that want ice makers and things like that. Anybody out there want an ice maker and with that crystal clear ice, you know, there's your Scotsman. One that's not on here that I've been selling more and more of, True, True. If anybody wants a high-end wine refrigeration and ice makers and things like that. Miele is huge with me, and Miele is a BMW. Bloom Brothers sells that, and John at Interstate sell that, and it is really a terrific product for everything from the cooktops to ovens and things like that. Wolf is the sister of the Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero and Wolf are actually the same. They're just, one is the division of refrigeration, one is the division of the cooking. So Wolf is absolutely phenomenal brand. Sharp is that under-counter microwave drawer, very popular if you want a microwave. Zephyr is a hood. That's a Toyota Camry when you go looking for hoods, and Best Buy Brougham. So here's the thing. Do you want to be, when you get all new appliances, do you want to be in the package of, let's say, $7,000 to $14,000? If you want to be in that package, focus on Bosch, KitchenAid, GE Profile, you know, things like that. But I will warn you, and I will tell you this, and I'm sure there's other brands. Email me or shoot me if there's another brand I don't have on here. But I will tell you this, those brands, except for Bosch that I just mentioned, the KitchenAids, the JennAirs, as far as refrigeration, the LGs and things like that, those are going to last you up to 10 to 12 years. They're made to break and last no more than 10 to 12 years. So what we have to do in situations like that, we have to make sure we allow the slots for that. When you get into your Sub-Zero, your Thermadors, your Miele's, you're going, and those units are going to last you 25 to 35 years. You know, and they're made to last and things like that. So what's important to you on that? And not everybody though can invest into, you know, $30,000 of appliances. So, okay, refrigeration. The first one, now you notice there's not much of a difference as far as the look goes, but the first one is freestanding refrigeration. That's Old Faithful. That is a refrigerator that we have, and it's absolutely terrific, and the kids have grown with it, and blah, 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 and the cubic footage is up there. The only problem is it sticks so far into the room and things like that. So that's the freestanding. Then all of a sudden, what's become really popular is what is referred to as counter depth refrigeration. Now, counter depth will actually, the box is 24 inches deep. And then the doors stick forward. It is still freestanding, it'll still slide out, but see how it's a much sleeker look. Now, when I was dealing with the people that came in from Niles yesterday, he said to me, we're using his existing counter depth, and he said to me, now, I won't see the doors, the side of the doors in your new design. Will I? The cabinets will line up? I said, no, you're going to see the doors because you're not going to a built-in. You're going to more of a counter depth. So you're still going to, for those doors to open, they have to stand proud of the cabinetry. But you can see it's still, you know what? For $2,000 to $3,000, you're still getting a really clean looking appliance. What you notice on the left, that is a term that is the most popular refrigeration style today. It's called a French door. So the two doors open on top, and then you have the drawer on the bottom. And then now people are adding into extra drawers and things like that, which is nice. That could be for your lunch meat, your cheeses, you know, things like that. Now, one of the things that you have to be aware of, so you say, oh, I'm all excited, I'm going to go see Jim or I'm going to go see John, and I know that counter depth and I know it's going to be sleek. Here's what you got to watch. When you go see Jim, and he's going to show you 10 different counter depth refrigerators, what they're doing, all these manufacturers are fighting with each other to gain cubic footage. Now, they can't go higher. They can't go deeper. So what are they doing? They're getting that extra cubic footage on the doors. So what's that translating? They're now starting to bow out the doors. So even though the box is 24 inches deep, the doors are becoming thicker. So you can get your gallons of milk and all that kind of stuff to get that stored. So you want to be, aware of that. Now, is that good or bad? No, it's not good or bad. I mean, it's a matter. Do you want that clean, sleek look? My wife's aunt in Chicago, she had a kitchen and she had it was a built-in, I think it was GE or something. It was built in, it broke. And she didn't want to put in the investment of a new refrigerator built-in. Those things are anywhere from 10 to 12,000 bucks. And she said, John, what do I do? I said, well, I think the best refrigerator that you're going to love is the Bosch counter depth refrigerator. And she put it in, and she just can't thank me enough about that. It was a sleek, clean look. She spent like 2,000 to 3,000 bucks on it, and she got that really sleek built-in look with the flat doors. Okay, like you're seeing here in this counter depth. Okay, then we get into built-ins. Okay, so on the left you see a built-in. Now all of a sudden, am I saying that spending anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000 for a refrigerator is unjustified? Absolutely not. You get what you pay for. Okay, you have to decide that. But when you go into the built-ins, they are a lot of good reasons to invest that kind of money. Like, to give you an example, you take that built-in on the left, that has a dual compressor system. So what happens now is you have the separate compressor for the freezer and the refrigerator. It's not the freezer air going into the refrigeration and and cooling it that way. They're separate entities. The other thing that a lot of these built-in units have, especially Sub-Zero, they have air scrubbers, like is on the space shuttle. And the air scrubber, what that does is it all of a sudden, to put it in layman's terms, your vegetables, like my wife, and I love Costco. I mean, I'm a big Costco guy too. But my wife loves Costco, and we're empty nesters now. And she still comes home with these green beans that serve 20 people for 20 days. And you know what, the bags say, why do you keep buying? Well, it's cheap. I mean, but the bottom line is it goes bad because it doesn't last. In the Sub-Zeros and that where they're scrubbing the air, you're going to get your vegetables and everything last just so much longer. Now you go to the right. This is one where when I do my European kitchens that I absolutely love, look at that. When those doors are shut, you don't know. I mean, if you didn't have that ice and water there, you would not know that that was not a pantry. That's that you would have to ask somebody where the refrigerator is, when you go into their house visit. So you can take a built-in and you can make it look like cabinetry. There it is. Look at that. Okay, so here's another interesting thing. Okay, so let's go back here. This is one large refrigerator. Now all of a sudden, here's what's really interesting. And they're starting to do this. This is the integrated again. You could see you don't know you have refrigeration there. But here's the thing. You can now do what's called refrigerator columns. This is an a la carte design system where we can go and take a refrigerator or a freezer and we can decide the width of it. They're separate units. So let's say we want to have more refrigeration and less freezer. We could go all the way up to a 30 to 36 inch column for our refrigeration. And then we could go with maybe an 18 inch or 15 inch. I think they start maybe at 18 inch column for our freezer. So we can go and we can a la carte design how much refrigeration versus how much freezer we want, which is really nice. They are starting to do that into the more conservatively priced units for the, to the end of the market, other end of the marketplace. Okay, wine refrigeration, very popular. I'll get people, realtors call me all the time. People are moving and they say, John, can you put in a wine refrigerator system for so-and-so before they move because it'll help sell the house. People love to have these things. There's two different types. Are you a true wine connoisseur where you want to have dual zones for your reds and your whites and you want to have it all computerized and special glass and all this? Or Do you want to just keep some whites chilled and you like the look, having the light on and things like that? So there's true wine refrigeration, and then there's refrigeration and you put a glass door on it and you have some nice look and you call it a day. You're going to see differences in price. When you get up and you say, John, I really have some wines I want to explore, you want to start looking at the Sub-Zeros or the Trues. If you want to get just basically keep the size down a little bit, the price, you can go into your Ulines and there's some other brands too, you know, more into the Toyota Camrys. Something that heavily comes into play with me as a designer, okay, is how I install it. So if I want to make it look integrated or not, like you see on the left, there's only certain brands that are going to allow me to do that as a designer. So that I would be working with you right up front to say, hey, do you want to have, you know, a certain design element to it? You know, remember 2 weeks ago we talked about inset cabinetry where there's no overlay doors? Okay, so what do you do though when you have the wine refrigerator with a door on top of it? You know, how do you make that work? So those are all things that I as a designer have to get to know you and how you want it designed. Okay, and then we can get into our under counter refrigeration. These are very popular today because, you know what, okay, so let's say, you know what, John, I just don't have the room or the space for a big 6-foot refrigerator. You know, then we can go and we could add under counter refrigeration. One thing I do want to say, going back to the refrigerators though, I forgot what brand, and if anybody is interested in it, there's a very economical, I forgot if it's Whirlpool or who, I'd have to go back and think, but they have an all 30-inch refrigerator and an all 30-inch freezer. I think there may be 32, 33-inch each, and you can put them together and get that built-in look for a really cost-effective way. But is anybody out there interested in that? And then also it's going to take up about 5 feet of wall space. If anybody is, I can find out, or you can call Jim at Bloom and find out. Okay, so the under counter refrigeration is if you don't have that space for that wide thing, but let's say kids want to keep their water bottles, you know, the waters or the beers or things like that. And the nice thing about this with this beverage, under counter beverage, I'm doing this in Brecksville right now, they only wanted maybe 3 or 4 bottles of wine chilled, and the rest of it they wanted to have, you know, just to have the vegetables, or it could be the bottles of pop or beer or whatever in the top section. That's called the beverage center. Usually those things are about 24 inches wide. And you notice you can either panel them or you can have glass fronts or things like that. And then we go to the right. And this is when you're going to start getting into a little more of the high-end items, but we can do under counter refrigerator drawers, or they could be freezer drawers. So you can decide. There is a manufacturer out there, I will tell you, on a refrigerator that can go and convert drawers down below in their units, either freezer or refrigerator, depending on your grocery situation. So that's out there for you. Dishwashers. Stack, this is what you look for when you want to go shop. You want to stack for quietness and stackability. Do you want drawers as an option? Do you want integration? Do you want to raise the dishwasher? And then the situation with the inset cabinetry, which I just talked about with the under counter refrigeration. Okay, what does integration mean? Integration in my world, like I said with the cabinetry, was all of a sudden you don't see it, you know, which is really nice. So as you go through, you can go through your kitchen and say, where is this stuff? You know, where do you see it? And the only way you know that that's running is if you see a light laser pointing to the floor. Bosch does that really, really nice. When you close it, you don't know it's on. It's so quiet. So when I say talk about the quietness as a big feature, it's really important today. So that's integration when you don't see it. You can do it even in stainless, and you notice the controls are always going to be on the top. Then we can get into dishwasher drawers. This is absolutely ideal for empty nesters. Fisher-Paykel is my favorite for the under-counter drawers. So if we have any empty nesters out there, or somebody that says they're not always doing a full load, you can go and do drawers now. I will do this maybe once every 1 to 2 years. I'll never forget a small kitchen out in Westlake. Terry Krisiak and his wife, every time I see them, if I'm talking at a show, they still come by and say hi and thank you again for raising my dishwasher. She has a bad back. So by raising the dishwasher, they're not bending over, which is really nice. So that's the opportunity to raise the dishwasher. You want to make sure you can do it when you have enough counter space, because you're going to lose that counter space. But you'll see in my designs, if you go through on my website and my portfolio, in fact, my award-winning kitchen this year had a raised dishwasher on it, if you go back and look. Microwaves. Now, I am not a big believer in microwaves. In fact, I probably put a microwave into maybe 25 to 30% of my kitchens today, and that reason why is going to come up in a minute. But let's say that you do want to put a microwave in, don't put it on the countertop. Okay, what you want to do is you want to build it in. Now, look at what's on the right. This is how you do a microwave. And remember, this is what's really nice. Remember we talked about a stock versus custom cabinets? This is the perfect opportunity to look at and see the difference between stock and custom on the right. So we have a microwave, probably maybe $200-300, and then we have what's referred to as a trim kit. That takes a regular microwave and makes it look built in and professional in your kitchen. So if you're going to put a microwave in, you put it in with the trim kit. Again, go on my website and look at all my ideas under my gallery. And my favorite microwave for the dollar, when I do put it in, is the GE PEM31, PEM31. It's counter depth, I'm not counter depth, it's wall cabinet depth. It's like 13 inches deep. Get that trim kit and we can put it up into a wall cabinet, get it off the counter. So that's really nice. But that's what the trim kit. Now, why do I know that that is more custom looking on cabinetry? See how the doors and the drawer come right down and that microwave fits in perfectly like a glove there? You know, like if this were going to be stock cabinetry, the stock cabinetry is going to give me maybe an opening size of 21 or 24 inches and I only need 19, and it's going to be a gap between the top and bottom. So that is really a nice application, that slide on the microwave. Okay, now one thing also with the microwaves that I don't have drawn here, but our slide on, is the sharp under counter microwave drawer. So when people are, a lot of people, their objection to microwaves is going and seeing them. Like that white microwave there's in your face in that kitchen. A lot of people do like to have the drawers. Now, the difference between putting that PEM31 with a trim kit, my guess it's probably at the end of the day, my guess would probably be maybe $300-400 or so. To put the drawer in, you're probably at around $1,200 to $1,500. So again, you have to weigh, you know, and where you want to be with this stuff. Don't worry, I'm going to be blowing you out of the water in a minute. Okay, when we talk about cooking. Okay, so keep your waiting, and I'll tell you what's replacing the microwave. That'll be coming up shortly. So now let's go into cooking. We have Old Faithful on the right. We were all raised with Old Faithful, or most of us were, where we would have a freestanding range. I remember growing up, I have 10 brothers and sisters, that my mom would have the controls on the front, you know, the gas little freestanding, and the controls would be on the front. And I always remember her taking the controls, they popped off, and she would put them up in a wall cabinet so us kids couldn't be turning the flames on and off. And that's what I grew up with. And a lot of these freestanding ranges were actually 40 inches wide way back. Everybody remembers that, where they would have a little side oven with them. But today, they're pretty much 30 inches. I rarely like to use a freestanding range today. What I like is, if I'm going to do, and somebody's on an economical budget, would be to do what's referred to as a slide-in range. And the slide-in range, actually, look how sleek that looks. So you don't have the back, you have the controls there, and you have your oven, and that bottom could just be a drawer for storage, or you know what, people are putting warming doors down there now too. So when I will sell a freestanding range, is there are some manufacturers that actually have an oven and a half, and they put the smaller oven on the top. And that's one situation where people would do a slide-in range. I mean, a freestanding. But that slide-in actually slides over the countertop, so you don't have that gap where things are going to be going and falling down that crack and crevice there. One of the toughest questions that you're going to answer in your kitchen is one oven or two. So okay, here's something. And I was working on a job, and I got to tell you, this is very, very important to have this discussion right now, because I'm assuming when you guys do your kitchen that you're going to be pulling permits. So let's just have that assumption. But the big thing with the appliances today, when you pull a permit, is what's called the how many CFMs are blowing out of your house. Now, when you go look for a hood, okay, and I just ran into this in Shaker, and I knew it was coming. This is a big, I don't know if we have any West Siders out there. This all started on the West Side with the building departments, and now it's hit the East Side. And Westlake and Bay were the big ones that started this. But here's what's happening. 390 CFMs, that's cubic feet a minute on the hood. Anything more than that, the city is going to require you to put in a makeup air system to pull air into the house that you're taking out. And the reason they're saying that is because a lot of these homes that were built in the 80s and the 90s, when we had the energy crisis, are so airtight. And even new construction today, the homes are so airtight that you're drawing all this air out, you're going to run into carbon monoxide issues and things like that. So they're saying if you're going to put in 390 more, then you're going to have a makeup air system. How does that translate? That translates to some cities make you get an engineer to tell you how much makeup air system you need, and then you've got the cost of it, and you're probably going to be $2,000 to $4,000 extra if you put that in. Now, why am I talking about that when I'm right here? Because with Pro Style cooking, you need to be higher than 390 CFMs. You might be going up to 600 to 1,000 CFMs. So that's something to think about when you're doing Pro Style. Now, what is Pro Style? In a nutshell, it looks, a lot of people put it in because of look. It looks more commercial, more thing. You can see it has the knobs on the front, and it gives you, it's really a nice appearance, but it also has a higher BTU. BTU is British thermal units, how much heat it gives out. So it's going to put out more heat. You can get griddle systems with it. You can get a grill with it. So there's a lot of opportunity here. Not as popular today as it was maybe 10, 20 years ago, but it's still out there, still available. I probably put a Pro Style unit in, I would say once every 3 to 4 months. Viking, I didn't mention that brand Viking. I used to be a big believer in Viking, not as much anymore, but Viking does have a Pro Style look without being Pro Style. So, and you're not spending like that cooking right there, that's a 5-foot unit. Okay, I bet you that unit's probably 12 to 14,000 bucks. Okay, that Pro Style cooktop is probably around 3 to 4 grand. Okay, why am I a huge Bosch believer? Because Bosch, as an option today, has a side swing oven. And you say, well, it's not the end of the world if I don't have a side swing. Yes and no. I mean, if you're in a tight situation, maybe up against an island or something, then you have that opportunity where you have that side swing. You're not having to reach in, or if you have a bad back or things like that. I have a situation that I'm dealing with right now. Lady called me this week, and I even recognized her voice. This was from 15 to 18 years ago. And her name is Karen Van Heusen, and she's out of Pittsburgh. She's a paraplegic. And I did her kitchen. And her oven went. And I knew right away when so she went to the kitchen, she wanted to replace, but what does she do? She had this side swing oven in there, and I knew I did the side swing. It was a Gagano, I believe, that because it was side swing. But now I have to use the Bosch and try to get that to fit because of being paraplegic, she can't reach over into an oven. So there are certain situations where that oven is very important. So we can do single ovens, have one oven with a cooktop. We can do double ovens. We can do side swings. So I don't know if I mentioned Bosch is the brand that has that side swing today. I mean, there's a high, I think Gagano still does, but for the best for the dollar, the Bosch has that. Okay, this picture here, if you were in the first one, remember I showed you that kitchen where the lady had the glass things to match for her kids, did the pottery. Here's the base unit. This is something I don't do that often. It's very European. This was done because they wanted a 36-inch wall oven. And we were able to get, I don't remember if that was Wolf. That looks like Wolf there. I don't know if Wolf still has it, but they have that 36-inch wall oven. We put it underneath a 36-inch cooktop, and the client loves it. The only negative to that is it's going to put the oven lower to the floor, which you just have to be aware of. Then over here on the right, this is something that I still like to have in my back pocket. It's not as popular today, but it's really, really effective. It is not cost effective though. So what we have is we have what's referred to as a modular system. That's what the Americans call it. The Europeans call it a Hob system, H-O-B. And the Hob system, what you do is it's a la carte. So let's say, and we're going to talk about induction and all that in a minute, but let's say you wanted some gas burners, you wanted some induction burners, you wanted a deep fryer, or you wanted a griddle, or you wanted a what's another one? A steam. There's a steamer hob. So you could do all of those things, and we can just stack them next to each other and get them all. So that's what's referred to as a hob system. Okay, what is induction cooking? This is probably right here, out the whole webinar. This is probably the most important slide right here. And with induction is nobody really is buying electric today. I can't remember the last electric cooktop I put in. What induction is a cooktop that generates no heat. That is almost as effective as gas. You say, well, how can that work? How can a cooktop that just doesn't generate heat, how does it cook? So the way it works is that you have a magnetic field under those circles. And when you put a pot that a magnet will stick to, that magnetic field is going to make the molecules in that metal go 1,000,000 miles an hour, which causes friction, which causes heat. That's how it works. Really popular today. Now, you notice here that each of these cooktops, left and right, have 5 burners. 5 burners are the most popular. The thing with induction is you have to have your pots and pans that a magnet will stick to, and you have to put them within the circle. The prices come down. I believe it or not, we talk about this being new. When I started this business in the 80s, when tile countertops were the thing, you could actually have a tile countertop and one of your tiles could have that magnet underneath it. And you wouldn't even know you had a cooktop in the kitchen. And induction failed miserably. It wasn't effective. It just didn't work, and it was gone for 20 years. Now it really came back. They perfected it. It's really nice. Now, one of the things with these induction cooktops, you're going to go and say, wait a minute, John, why are these priced from $1,500 to $5,000? Now, the reason why is some of your upper end models, okay, or let's start with the lower end models. When you have that biggest burner, that biggest circle, and you put something in there and you hit your boost to really get it to get that high energy, it's going to draw the power from those other burners, make them less effective. When you start going into the upper end models, each one has their own separate little energy thing where they don't draw from each other. And then now what's happening is some of these induction cooktops, they don't have circles. You can put the pots anywhere you want on there and a computer will pick it up, which is nice. So where do you want to go? What do you want to spend? Okay. Now all of a sudden, my all-time favorite cooktop, and people go see them and they believe me, they go look at this thing and they have to have it. This is a Wolf gas cooktop. This to me is the best cooktop on the market if you want gas. So what's happening here is now you notice that that cooktop is flush with the countertop. Clean, sleek. The controls are on the front, so all you're getting on the top is work surface. Notice it's flush, like I said. Okay, and the controls being on the front, we maximize it. Now, a couple things on this cooktop, and with a lot of cooktops, that middle one is a high BTU that gives you anywhere from 18, I forgot exactly on this one, but these high BTUs will give you anywhere from 18 to 20,000 British thermal units, which means that it's going to heat up very, very quick. The top right is a simmer burner. So a simmer burner would be ideal if anybody does baking, you're melting chocolates or butters, or you have sauces or things like that, that doesn't burn to the bottom, that you could put a dollar bill between that and the pan, and it's not going to catch on fire. So that's what a simmer burner does. Again, what do we want? What's your lifestyle going to be, as you move forward? There's a double oven. Now, one of the things, the difference between stock and custom, okay, again, where do I put that oven? How high up? So that comes into play. Your stock, you're locked in. Your custom, I take out my tape measure and we go and we measure how high that we want to go with that. Warming drawers, okay? Warming drawer I refer to as the sunroof of the automobile. So what happens on these things is you go and when I went to get a car, oh God, back in the late 80s, okay, all of a sudden, my boss says when I'm leaving, he says, go out and when you don't come back without a sunroof. I said, why would I want a car with a sunroof? And he said, no, trust me, you want to get a sunroof. This was back when I first started in the 80s, and it was like, my first little Honda Civic as I got out of school and that. And so I went out, I came back, he said, you get it? I said, yeah, and guess what? I have not had a car without a sunroof since. Now, why am I saying that? I didn't miss a sunroof when I didn't have it. This warming drawer, if you don't have it, you might never miss it. But it is people that have it, sometimes in their next kitchen will put in too. You have to cook, you have to entertain, or you have to have a growing family, but food goes in there, it stays warm without drying out. So could you see at Thanksgiving time, if everything's, you only have one oven, and what do you do when something comes out of the oven to keep it warm? You put it in here, and it all stays and things like that. One thing also I forgot to mention, I do a ton of kosher kitchens. I don't know if anybody out there is Jewish, but a lot of these units out there, okay, have these settings today that the ovens will stay on. So people that didn't know out there, a lot of these ovens and that have emergency shutoffs where if they're on too long, they'll shut off, and you can bypass that because in the Jewish faith, after sunset on Friday, you cannot turn things on, light switches. I've even had in the kosher kitchens, the Orthodox, where I couldn't, put a place for rolls of aluminum foil. They have to be sheets because they can't. Ripping the sheet would cause sparks, and they don't believe in that. So there's always things out there for our friends in all the different cultures and faiths, to bypass things. And the warming drawer is one of them. And notice that that's integrated so that it can shut and it just replaces a drawer. Okay, miscellaneous appliances. We talked about the venting, about that, the CFMs. One of the things here we can do also, we have downdrafting. So instead of going up, we can go down. Now, when you go down, there's three different, that's called a pinnacle system. You hit a button, it'll raise up. But one of the things that you can do is you can take, and there's 3 ways that we can downdraft. I don't know if that'll be coming up on a slide. Let me bump ahead. No. Okay, so the 3 ways that we can downdraft. When I talked to the client yesterday, he said, how much noise does it make? Well, if it's the motors in the cabinet, it's going to make a little more noise. If the motor is in the basement, okay, then it's going to take less noise, and you can go with a stronger blower, or we can put the blower on the outside of the house. So we have a remote. If it's on the outside of the house, the motor can be in line if it's in the basement within the joist, or if it's in the cabinet, which most people do. You know, it's nice, it's less costly, but the only negative to that is it takes up the whole cabinet underneath. So sometimes people want to utilize that cabinet. Then we can go and have an updraft hood. Updraft hood can be either ducted or ductless. So I just finished a job for an elderly lady in Cleveland Heights in one of those 4-story things with all cement on that, and she had to have a ductless hood. So we were able to have it ductless. Is that the perfect situation? No, but it's better than nothing at all, where it would blow through the charcoal filters and then come back out into the room. But you can see here, this one's vented, the charcoal filters, it's going up and then it's going out. So that's what's referred to as an updraft. Compactors, pretty much a dinosaur. Really, I put one in maybe once a year, not as effective today. But there's some people that grew up with them, still want them. You can do them. Some of the complaints over the years have been the smell over time, and then also the weight of the bag and taking that out. Ice makers, we could put ice makers in. I talked about that Scotsman being a perfect one if somebody wants to have more of a, that pristine ice and things like that. Okay, so that takes us to the end of this webinar series. Are there any other questions out there? Again, if anybody's interested in that design guide, let me know. Anybody's interested in having me guide them through anything, either through design process or having some work done, you can reach me at 216-870-2644. In 2 weeks, we're going to come back with the home office. Anybody's interested in bathrooms, you'll be getting a e-blast on that. And then that we're going to be drawing closer to the end of the fall series, and we're going to be coming up with the 25 design tips to a perfect kitchen. We're going to do kitchen trends, and then we're going to have the winter series where we're going to also, besides some of this, we're going to get into countertops and flooring and plumbing fixtures and things like that. So hopefully this webinar has been a real benefit to you guys, and I'm really glad that you're having the opportunity to be a part of this. Okay, if there's no questions, then we're going to sign off. Enjoy the day. I am going to go kayaking at Punderson. So anybody has any other questions, either give me a call or email me. Thank you. Bye-bye.